Welcome to another episode of Worthy Emotions, our inaugural season. My guest today is attorney mediator Lenore Myers, a true peacemaker in family law. For more than 3 decades, Lenore has guided couples and families through the challenges of separation, divorce, custody, and support with calm, compassionate conversations that focus on peaceful resolution and mutual dignity rather than conflict and courtroom battles. Lenore is not just an attorney, she is also a mediator. She is a certified collaborative lawyer and has served as custody conciliator in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And she's been doing this for many, many years. She's been helping families reach agreements that honor everyone involved. That's possible. And I'm especially grateful that Lenore was my first guest to complete an emotional intelligence assessment before coming on the podcast. That's a willingness that she shows that truly models the kind of self awareness, empathy, and leadership that give family law professionals a winning advantage in supporting healthy transitions. She has raised the bar. Let's welcome Lenore Myers. Which of these emotions are welcomed at the divorce table? All of them. Because your emotions are worthy, and so are you. Lenore Myers, welcome to Worthy Emotions Podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
I'm happy to be here with you too. It's always wonderful to be with you.
Thank you. So let's get started with exploring the work that you do and another really fantastic thing that has happened, in my opinion, that has happened for you. So divorce is never just about legal outcomes. You know this, everyone knows this. It's about people, emotions, and the future of families. And that's why this conversation today is so special to me. So, Lenore, you are breaking new ground on the Worthy Emotions podcast. Not only are you an accomplished divorce attorney, mediator, serving families as a neutral third party, you are also the very first divorce professional to take the EQI 2.0 emotional intelligence assessment and receive a personalized debrief and coaching session with me before joining this conversation. You are my first on this podcast who's done the EQI 2.0.
Oh, I feel special. And it was wonderful too. It was really wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And we'll talk a little bit more specifically about that too, because I want everyone to hear what that experience was like for you and the benefit of it. So today we are going to explore not only your professional wisdom, but also your personal EQ insights and how those insights shape or will shape the way you now will show up for your clients in mediation. So, Lenore, mediation is such a unique form of dispute resolution. It positions you as a neutral guide for two people who may be in deep conflict. Let's kick off this conversation by you answering, how do emotions show up in mediation and what makes your role different from litigation or even collaborative divorce? This kind of sets the foundation for what mediation is as we go forward in talking about divorce and conflict.
Emotions are always especially high in any conflict, and even more so in divorce mediation, because it's two people that have been very intimately involved and personally trigger one another to the deepest level. But knowing that people who come to mediation also really have a high regard for their marriage. They actually deep down have a high regard and love for the person that they've spent significant time with and even are co-parenting with. And they really don't want to continue to battle. So when these couples come to mediation, even though it's highly emotionally charged, they're not looking to do further damage. So they're open to being guided, and they understand that while things might be emotional, that's not going to be what's driving mediation. And if emotions drive mediation, mediation's going to fail.
Mm.
So there's a pre-screening that I do for my mediation clients to make sure that they're in the right mindset to be a good fit for mediation. And then, there's certain tools that I'll use during the session if things are getting too heated, maybe take a break. If somebody I'm feeling like somebody's not necessarily being heard, I'll rephrase things for the other party to make sure they hear, but it won't be one-sided. Like, they'll understand that I'm not there to pick anybody's side. I'm there to make sure that they're making informed decisions and that they're empowered during this process. And that's what I make very clear in the beginning. That's what I want to do. And I want it to be a reset for how they move forward in this transition in their life.
Okay, so a couple of things I want to pull out from what you said. One is when emotions drive, mediation is over. And so the emotions can come to the table for sure. They're welcome at the table, but they can't, the emotions cannot run the show, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Exactly. And usually when I'm saying that, it's like they're not there to get revenge. They're not there to hurt the other person the way they've been hurt.
Mhm.
Like, this is not the forum to do that. The courtroom is usually the forum they choose to do that because it's adversarial. They want to fight. People who come to mediation, they're tired. They don't want to fight anymore. They just want to be able to move forward.
Okay, so let's do a quick primer on the difference between mediation, litigation, and collaborative law.
Okay.
Do a quickie on that so that everyone knows where we will be spending most of our conversation today.
Okay, so I'll start with litigation. Litigation is where two people hire an attorney and both attorneys are fighting for what's best for their client, even if it's at the expense of the other party. And they go in front of a third party, the stranger in a black robe, who's going to tell them how to divide their property and their kids based on the law and all of those emotional nuances and what went to make up the family. They are not making decisions necessarily on that because they're obligated to act within the parameters of the law. And the law is it's a broad brush. That's litigation. Collaborative law is representation without litigation. So you have two people who are represented by attorneys, and then other professionals come in, mental health professionals, certified divorce financial analysts, even like real estate appraisers, things like that, to help get a clear picture of what's going on and then work as a team to come up with a solution that everybody can live with. And each attorney is certainly advocating for what's in their client's best interest, but their goal is to help everybody come to a resolution that they've all sort of bought into. Mediation really is the one that empowers the parties the most. The mediator's job is to facilitate the conversations between the two parties and to make sure that they're making informed, amicable, agreeable decisions. So a mediator's goal is to help them gather all the information that they need to make their decisions, consult with professionals if need be, like consult with an attorney, consult with a certified divorce financial analyst, consult with a real estate appraiser, get all that information together, and then to be able to sit down and kind of give and take to come up with a resolution where everybody walks away feeling satisfied, but not feeling like they've been taken advantage of. And that may or may not be in line with what the law would say, or even with what one of the professionals would say, but with what feels right for the parties
Mhm.
in dividing their estate and creating a parenting plan that's going to work best for their individual family. So it's a very empowering process.
Yeah. And the individuals who come to you probably have a higher level of emotional intelligence. I'm just going to assume I've never assessed them, might have a higher level of self awareness, I'll say, to come to you to do mediation versus litigation. I mean, I think litigation is the worst, okay, of all, because it's so destructive in so many ways. But there might be greater sense of self awareness when a couple chooses mediation over the other options.
Definitely. And it might be, either one or both of them have gone through therapy, or they just naturally have that ability to do that to some degree. And also maybe they're they haven't had the kind of trauma that some people have that come into litigation.
Yeah.
I think people, I heard a great quote, I'm sure it's said often, hurt people hurt. And I think the deeper the hurt, the more trauma a person has, the more they're going to lash out because they're in more of a fight or flight
Mhm.
stance. Their executive functioning's turned off, and they're just, their emotional level is up here, and one drop over and everything comes crashing down.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's now that we have a baseline of what those three different dispute resolutions are, let's go a little bit deeper into your work as an attorney mediator. And I can imagine some people are asking, well, wait, why is she an attorney mediator? Like, what's really the difference here? And then I want to talk to you about your EQ session. So, attorney mediator, that's in your name, that's in your title. Why are you not just attorney or not just mediator? Why are you both?
Because, well, basically, I mean, I went to law school. Um, and got my degree, and I was a litigator. I started out in the public defender's office, and then I went into family law, and that was a litigation scenario. I like people, and so I wasn't drawn into the high powered, big money kind of areas of law. Like, I couldn't stand shuffling papers and writing briefs. I wanted to be with people.
Mm.
And what turned me into a mediator is I saw how people were being ripped to shreds emotionally in the courts. The courts were making legal decisions that were bereft of emotions. And divorce is so much about emotions. I'll never forget hearing somebody stand up in a Pennsylvania Bar Association family law section meeting saying, I'm a reformed custody litigator. And I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And I found the mediation training down in Silver Springs, Maryland. I went down there in 93 for a whole week,
Mm.
and I was converted, but the rest of the world wasn't there yet. And it took a long time to find a mediation model that met what I thought it should be. And I was lucky enough to meet our mutual friend, Chris Pastori, and the rest is history. So attorney, because I have the degree, I can do things that attorneys do, but I choose to use that role to help people in the mediation process resolve their divorce.
So you already, through your mediation training, and maybe even before your mediation training, Lenore, you already have an emotional wherewithal, a sense of emotions for yourself, within yourself and within others. I'm curious why you chose to undergo an intelligence assessment. So, for those who don't know what I mean by that, just like you have an IQ, an intellectual quotient, you also have an EQ, an emotional quotient. which can be measured. It's a score, so there's a measurement to it. And that score tells you where you are with the average population in terms of your emotional intelligence skill set, whether you are average, which is a score of 100, or below average, or above average. But you chose to undergo an assessment of 133 questions that you answered. And then I looked at your score, looked at, analyzed some things, and we had a debrief on what your score is and what it means and its application in your life. So, my question is, how did going through your own emotional intelligence assessment and those results shift your perspective, not just personally, but professionally? And if it didn't shift your perspective, you're free to say that too.
Oh, any inner work is good work. And
Mm.
I remember as the custody conciliator, I would always be preaching to the parents, you've got to do your work. So I've done a lot of work, but life's a process and the journey of self-discovery is interesting. So I'm always looking to find out more about how I tick. You think you know yourself, but
Yeah,
you
I know.
don't know yourself as well as you think you do. And there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. Professionally, I will take a breath and sit back a little bit more instead of trying to jump in.
So, what does
I
that
might
mean? Describe what that means.
Well, I want to fix problems. So
As
when
your
people
patient.
are like going through things, I'm like, sometimes I become impatient, like, no, you just do it like this. But not that I do that with them, but I'm like, have you considered this? Have you considered that? And there's something called transformative mediation where the mediator really sits all the way back
Mm.
and lets the couple really just work it out themselves. And so I think I might do that a little bit more. Let them kind of discover things a little bit more than I have been. A
Okay,
little less directive.
that's very insightful. So, what would be the benefit to you to sit back a little bit more? And what would be the benefit to your clients to sit back a little bit more?
Well, mediators, just like everybody else, have their own internal bias.
Mm.
And our friend David Hoffman really is a wonderful attorney mediator, and he teaches courses on internal family systems models, which is a sort of a psychological social worker kind of thing about what's going on in your head when it's sort of like the movie Inside Out. There's all these emotions pulling all the levers. So I think by sitting back, that'll quiet that in my head a little bit and not have me insert myself as much as I can to help solve problems. I think sometimes people learn more about problem solving if you let them do a little bit more of it.
Yes, very true. Yeah, it's aligned. What you've just said is seems like it's aligned with the whole mission of mediation, which is empowering the couple to make the decisions and come up with the plan that fits that works best for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk a little bit about triggers. Oh, we love the triggers. We get the triggers. So attorneys, whether trained in mediation or not, are humans too. And clients can sometimes trigger strong reactions, whether it's frustration, sadness, or even judgment. Now that you've seen your EQ results and had a debrief, what new insights do you have about your own triggers? And talk a little bit about self-awareness that might help couples truly win in this mediation process. So your triggers, and if you think your self-awareness has any value to that.
I think as an attorney, and then also personally, when your thought process or insights are challenged, you want to jump up on your haunches and be like, And, as a mediator, you sit on your hands, but you know who's getting under your skin and what types of people get under your skin. And it's easy to go down that rabbit hole at times. So I think the thing is to probably think about it a little bit more before you go into the mediation session. Like, I think I'll think about it a little bit more, maybe just do some deep breathing, maybe a little meditation, and just detach, which is why I'm saying, like, that's why I think I might be a little more transformative. Um, and let their dynamic play out more than trigger me. I mean, one of my best insights were when we were in one of our Make Divorce Healthier symposiums, and Max Rivers, the divorce mediator.
The marriage mediator.
The marriage mediator.
Corrected, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm divorced. No, the marriage mediator. Really insightful guy. But he said that every person has developed 5 forbidden or unmet needs by the time they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And when they get with that other person has similar unmet needs or forbidden desires, and they think they click, and then they're re-injured all over again by that other person because they're unaware of what those 5 unmet needs or forbidden needs are. And I think we all walk around like that to some extent. And so I think it's a good idea to kind of dig deep with that. If I just breathe and just am a little bit more aware of my emotions, because I'm a person that compartmentalizes things. If I allow myself to be a little bit more in touch with my emotions in the moment, instead of driving through them, it'll serve me and my clients better.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because a fun little statistic here is that 37% of adults are able to name an emotion while they're experiencing that emotion. So the rest of us are not even aware of what the emotion is. And so if you can't really identify it, it's hard to manage it.
Yeah, and definitely, and which I didn't realize how important that was until, I guess it was a talk I was with, and I'm name dropping all over the place because we know all these people. Henry Yampolsky was saying that when you are in your fear or flight mode, the oxygen doesn't go to your brain. And that's another reason your executive functioning turns off. So when you take that deep breath, you cut the flight or fright emotion, and the oxygen gets to your frontal lobe, and then you can start thinking. Do I do that as much as I should? No. But this made, like, seeing those scores and taking that into account, I'm like, okay, like, I need to check in with my emotions more. I need to be present and aware instead of in my head thinking about the next thing I have to do, which is what I do.
That is so spot on. Just the tiny tweak in awareness makes a huge difference. And I don't want anyone to minimize the value of self-awareness, emotional self-awareness. That can take you a long way in this divorce process, whether you're a mediator or whether you're a client. Let's talk a little bit about my favorite part, which is children and parenting. So as you know, others may not know, I am a mother of 4. When I went through my divorce, my children were very young. I've been divorced now 12 years, but I have seen the impact of custody battles on my children. I've also seen the benefit of learning the emotional intelligence skills that I was lacking so that I could co-parent better with my children's father. And I've also seen the benefit of my children now reflecting back to me emotional intelligence skills and just validating how they appreciate and respect my own growth in this area to make things better in the co-parenting space. Now, all of my children now are no longer need to be co-parented. Hallelujah. But during that time, it was extremely difficult. And I realized I have to find a way to make this work so that my children aren't going to be completely messed up as a result of this divorce and then these fights and battles between their father and me. And emotional intelligence really was my salvation. So I do this work because I care ultimately about what happens to the children when they're young and then when they grow up. So, with that long opening, unlike litigation, mediation helps keeps children out of the courtroom, which is fantastic. From your perspective as a mediator, now with emotional intelligence insights, how do you think you can better help parents make emotionally intelligent choices that protect their kids during divorce? And again, you're a mediator, so you have your audience or your clients are a little bit different than maybe the average. But tell me, what are your thoughts about helping them make better choices?
Well, I've been a custody conciliator for 15 years as well as a mediator.
Right.
I got to see, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what I would say to parents on either side is the point here is to give your kids a different role model for relationships than you had, because you don't want them to repeat the mistakes that you've made to be in this situation in terms of relationships. And you can't do what you don't know. You just naturally repeat your parents' patterns. I had a friend in high school that used to say, her mom would say to her, you put your arm in your sleeve and out comes your mother's hand. And and when you've had children, especially when they're young, things will start coming out of your mouth that your parents said that you're like, I swore I'd never say that. Parents that are in this situation, litigation or mediation, really want to protect their children. They do. Now, are they protecting them in the healthiest way? Not always, but their intent's there. So with mediation, I always start with the cornerstone of mediation is your children, because you both agree on one thing. You love your kids and you want what's best for them. How that looks might be different, but you agree on that point. And so we're going to start with your children and we're going to focus on, what you want to happen for your kids that you think is going to be best for them in terms of love and protect them, because they always need both parents. You're always going to be a family, and it doesn't end when they're 18. It's for the rest of their lives. And so you want to have something where when you go to their graduation or to their wedding or the birth of their child, you want it to be a happy, supportive event, and that they're not going to have to be navigating all of the tensions they had to throughout their childhood. So with that, parents are really all in. And I think they really work the hardest at that. Sometimes we agree on this, like that's not the problem. But sometimes it takes a really long time for them to process, but they're really committed to doing what's best for their children. I always encourage them co-parent counseling plus individual counseling. You can't go into co-parent counseling in an unhealed state and expect things to work out. It's not going to. You have to be aware of who you are, what you need to heal, what your trauma was, and then be able to come in a better state to do the work for co-parenting. I mean, you're not going to run a marathon before your leg or knee heals. And so what I wasn't aware of was the test that I took and when you gave your presentation. And seriously, I think the investment is invaluable. It's really a nominal investment to get a tremendous amount of insight. This was like a lot of deep work. And it was really great. Definitely, that's one of the things I'm going to suggest to my mediation clients is this would be really helpful and insightful for you and helpful for your children, because what you end up doing is putting your emotional rocks in their wagon for them to drag. And they shouldn't be responsible for taking them out.